Just taking questions, everybody. Just taking questions. Until the time for the show. Uh-oh. They just turned the lights off on us. Molly! Molly, welcome. Hi, Molly. Hi, Susan. I'm on. I'm just taking questions right now. You guys take your time. Yeah, please do. If you have a question, you can ask live and in person. You don't have to type it to me. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. They just shut the light off. I don't know what happened. The McGonagall sign looked so beautiful. If Shane's back there, do you know if he knows how to turn that? He probably knows how to turn that back on, eh? All right. It looked so nice. Hey, Garrett. They just went down automatically. Oh, okay, thanks, man. Copy right back. No problem. We got time. This is the taking questions portion, everybody. Favorite guitar lick you learned that you still play? Oh, that's kind of a cool question. I like that. Hey, Danielle, what's happening? We're getting the lights. We're getting the questions in. We're getting ready to broadcast on the old television on Austin Music TV in a few minutes. Not too long from now. About 6 minutes. And thanks, everybody. We're sharing tips as always. Me and my guest keep the things going. Does the sound okay? Oh, the lights went on just for a second, and then they went up. David, how's Vancouver? How's Salt Spring Island, actually? Nice to see you there, buddy. Ooh, pros and cons of being in a family band is a great question as well. I like it. Jeffro, perfect, thank you. That looks so much cooler on camera. It's like, ambiance.
Is there anybody who you have no...
Oh, there we go.
There we go, that's even better. Now there's actual light on you.
Well, now I have a light thing here that's helping a little bit. I got a new fancy camera. Great sound on Twitch. Love hearing it. Austin Music TV. That's not an app. That's a television channel in Austin. But you can see this on my Facebook, my Twitch, and my YouTube, as well as AustinCityJams.com. So I can put AustinCityJams.com. Keep those questions coming. We only have a few so far, and I don't want to be the one. I like it when you guys ask questions. I like your questions more than mine. It's always more fun. But yeah, we just sit on here for an hour and we shoot the proverbial you-know-what, and it's pretty fun. And Gabriel's going to be playing with me live from here at McGonagall's Mucky Duck. And you can see that online as well from their website or from my Facebook, etc., etc., etc. Hello. Welcome. Come on in. Don't worry. Don't mind us. Oh yeah, but I hope we don't bother you.
No, you won't.
Okay, good. You won't bother us either.
That's
great.
We've been married so long, we don't talk to each other.
Ah, fair enough. Fair enough.
For entertainment.
What, did I say that out loud?
Yeah, right? You're very welcome, Verda. Okay, so for those who don't know, Gabe is producer, songwriter, guitar slinger. Oh, Larry, I love your standard question. Put that in there again, because I like when other people get to see it. I do love your standard question. And about 3 more minutes to take questions. Oh, yeah, that's a fun one, Mark. Wasn't anybody going to tell me that I have my sunglasses on my head?
How did it get from 1993 to now so fast?
Was that the first time you played here?
Probably.
It's 2000 for me. Gabriel and I have both been playing here at McGonagall's Mucky Duck for a long time.
I think it's 96.
96. 96 for you, 2000 for me. And we just dated ourselves as if anybody was going to be fooled.
When you were 9.
Yeah.
You were 9.
I was a fetus.
Jolie was pretty.
Oh, it's so good.
Jolie was over here with your book.
I believe that.
Joey was younger than Ruby.
You know, I'm going to leave the music on in the club, which I'm sure they wouldn't mind, because I think for the other people who are just patrons here, they get to be, as long as it's not bothering any of you online who are tuning in. Nice. Oh yeah, I did not put the tip information in there. I'm sure Danielle will do that because she's awesome. And pin it. Thank you. 2 minutes. About 2 minutes, everybody. Yeah, right. Places. Simple as that.
I had him nuke my coffee.
Did it work?
It did.
Yeah.
Guess I'll
We
take
are-
this off for now.
In Canada, we're 2 meters apart. Here, we're roughly. So, we're following all the guidelines. It's a big table. Doing the best we can, as I know all of you are out there as well. It's kind of fun. Gabriel let me borrow his iPad for the chat, so I'll be able to monitor you guys a little better. Okay, we're getting close. About a minute away before we go online. Well, before we go on at AustinMusicTelevision.com and AustinCityJams.com.
Okay, so you're all over the place.
Kind of all over the place in more ways than
More
one.
ways than one.
It's not a comedy show, but it could be. I guess if we're going to look in the camera, we look over here. If I look in here, hello everyone, what's your question? That looks a little strange. You're going to be my straight man for the show.
Oh, right there. Right,
He's the Costello to my Abbott.
right outside the
Or is it the other way
At
around?
least it's not the, what are you?
Laurel to Hardy.
Gracie to your Allen.
Yeah, let's go ahead and not worry about that one, right? Thank you, Danielle. Thanks for putting the tip info in there. That's perfect. That's the only place you can tip right now. Later tonight will be different when Gabriel and I are actually playing on stage. Right over there. Tonight. Yes, exactly.
I'm gonna move my guitar out of her way.
Gotcha. We're online, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of 20 Question Tuesdays. This time I am not in Vancouver Island. I am in Houston at McGonagall's Mucky Duck, where Gabriel Rhodes and I are going to be playing this evening. And I thought I would take this opportunity to do this week's 20 Question Tuesdays with producer, songwriter, guitar slinger, and pal of mine, Mr. Gabriel Rhodes. So give him your virtual hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Jeff, who
Now-
I just saw in the car.
In the car
on
for
way
3
up
hours.
here.
Hi. For those of you who don't know what the show is, basically, I turned on my camera during the pandemic one day and I started doing a workshop, and everybody started showing up that was just out of the woodwork. It was beautiful. It was musicians, there were songwriters, there were guitar slingers, there were managers, there were social media people, all sorts of people showed up and started asking questions, and it was really beautiful, and it was a way for all of us to stay connected. Well, I've kept it going. And shortly after I started, Sheila from Austin Music Television said, would you like to put it on the cable channel? And I said, sure. So I got a fancy app, and now I stream to multiple different places. And the best thing about it is there's a little button with a thing that looks like a person, and I went, oh, I can have guests, which is much more interesting than me just blabbing for an hour, in my humble opinion. And let's see, the first guest I had, I think, was Michael O'Connor, and then it was like Jamie Harris and Scrappy Judd, and then we went through like Ruthie and Ruthie Foster, Bill Kirchen, Ray Wiley. I've had so many great people, and I've done it every week except for a few where I've had to do a rerun of like Susan Gibson. I'm going to do a rerun at the end of this month with Lloyd Maines. And let's see, what else? Just a little bit of housekeeping for this week. Tonight, 7 p.m. Central, Gabriel and I will be playing here. You can find it online. You can watch the whole show. They have great camera setup. They have great lighting, and they have incredible sound, and it's going to be a great show. So please tune in for that. Let's see, we're playing at Green Hall this weekend with the band. We're trying to do everything as safely as possible in these crazy, crazy times, and we encourage you to do the same. Let's see, what else?
Saxon Pub.
Saxon Pub on Friday the 20th. Thank you for that. I have a new vinyl. This is all me right now. We're going to get to Gabriel, and then we won't talk about me at all, hopefully.
Or as it pertains to me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well said. This is going to be good. And the vinyl Covered Uncovered 1 and 2 with some bonus tracks. And you have to pre-order it. You can find that at my website, which is... Not even on here. It's at Jeff Plank. Oh, you know what? Here's this one. Just look at that right there. And we can put that in. It's Q rates. And you'll get some bonus tracks that you can only get on vinyl because the new Covered Uncovered 2 is out. Share the stream to your Facebooks and let know. Oh, thank you, Danielle. That's great. Yes, we do like it when we share. All right, enough about me. Let's jump into the questions, and we've already got some good ones. The Saxon is temporarily closed, but we're hoping it opens by then, and if it isn't, we're going to go out to the farm where I just did a Sessions on Mary. It's kind of a backup location for the band gig. So we'll be able to do that if the Saxon is closed. We'll see. They're just taking precautions, which I think is
Yeah, and I noticed
the right
that
thing to
a
do.
lot of people are moving stuff to the farm, so good on David Thiessen. Does he run that?
Well, Dave Thiessen does Deerfoot Treehouse, which was the thing that I had booked. John Loughran and his wife Carol and Hank Sinatra on Sound regularly have shows out at this place. It's about 10 minutes outside of Austin on the east side off Riverside. And they have great sound, and Marshall Hood plays there every week on Fridays anyway.
Yeah, because I was just seeing like a lot of shows get moved there from places that are...
Because they can do it outside safely. The show that I did, a lot of people have had problems with this and this and that, and everyone mailed in their Vax card or emailed in a picture of their vaccination card, or they showed it when they got there. How cool is that? Nobody had any problem with that, and we still had, what was it, I think 48, besides my big guest list, which is always fun. Anyway, I think everybody's trying to do the best they can right now, and we hope you're all staying safe out there. Let's go to the very first question. This is from Mark, who is a Patreon supporter and a supporter of the show. What was your first guitar lick you learned that you still play today? That's going to be hard to show. Do you even remember?
I don't.
What about song? A lot of us know the first song we
Well,
learned.
I in high school, I was lucky enough to have my brother and all his friends would sit around strumming acoustic
Same
guitars.
with me,
You know,
yeah.
and they had the Beatles book and the this book and the that book of all pretty much cool 60s music and stuff.
Beatles. You
And
starting with the Beatles? I had to start with like Poison and
since
Guns
they
N'
were
Roses.
they were all strumming, I would just figure out like whatever the coolest string line was and try to, fit that in there and since there was no pressure, we were just in the greenhouse in Oklahoma. It was just a good way to hunt and peck and noodle my way through to a pretty soon I developed a style of being able to hear it and play it, a little faster and but I always liked Mark Knopfler and Chet Atkins and who's the other older contemporary of Chet Atkins, Merle Travis.
Merle Travis, for sure.
I never
right?
really tried to play like them or Django Reinhardt or anything, but
But they were influences.
they were definitely influences,
So it was a lot of listening to records, and it was a lot of
listening
jamming
to
with other
records,
people.
But I was never one of those that would try to just learn the lick off the rock record. I just didn't. I just never went there.
What I find interesting about your answer is that a lot of times I'll talk to people, budding lead guitarists, even people who've played for a long time, and I'll say, sing what you play and try to, hum it and put spaces in and put breaths in and listen to vocalists and things like that, or horn players, rather than learn a bunch of licks and scales. What happens is there's like a little microcosm where they learn how to fit in the spaces more than just, which is what no songwriter wants anyone to do when they're playing. And so you're learning lines and picking up little lines off of Beatles tunes or other stuff, and then everybody else is sitting and strumming, and you're trying to find your spot.
Well, like we were just talking about before we started here, like in this particular room, you know, I was with my mother's band, Kimmy Rhodes, and you know, remember she had one particular night, like Waylon Jennings was sitting over there, and you know, it was
So nobody cool.
and like, but
Sarcasm.
I mean, it's a good opportunity to be in like a folkish band like that, to really play with the vocal, and also if it's your mother's band, she's gonna tell you if you're playing on top of the vocal. You are not gonna get away with it.
Now, how does somebody? I mean, did she say it like outright? Because I've found like.
Oh no, she would be, you know, pretty frank. You
She'd
know.
be pretty
and
frank
also
about
having
it.
Joe Gracie be a mentor, you know, he taught me to play in the holes. He's like, you know, when I was making common mistakes as a young player, he would say, you know, this is where you know, you're going wrong.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Playing over top of vocals, playing over
Wait
top of
for
words.
the holes, and you'll hear them. And some songs don't have very many holes.
And what do you do on those?
You just don't play
Exactly.
anything. You know?
That's
Every
exactly
now and
right.
again it might overlap a little bit, you know, or a little melody that's kind of going underneath the vocal, but it's not a lick, it's just a melodic line or something like that. But,
Yeah.
you know, for the most part, listen for the holes and play in them. You know?
Yeah, I think that's a big deal too with like who gets the call back. You know, a lot of people would say, "Well, how do you get this gig? How do you keep this gig?" And it's kind of being cool on the road and listening for your spots.
So I know a lot of great guitar players that are just so damn hard to travel with.
So you don't call them.
They stop getting hired.
Yeah,
you know?
they stop
You gotta
getting
be,
called.
you know, cool in the airport.
Yeah, be a good tipper.
Yeah.
Try your best to take care of the other
I
people.
mean, I know
around
that
you.
probably didn't answer your question, but
Oh, I think it did. He said.
you know, I'm pretty sure I
great
learned.
answer, actually.
I'm pretty sure I learned the ending riff of Sultans of Swing.
Ah, yeah, the
You know,
little,
as a-
the official, the look at me licks.
Look at me,
look at me, right? Yeah. And we're gonna talk about that, I'm sure, a lot during the show. No, Mark himself said great answer, and I would have to agree. He also asks, when I'm learning a new song, I dream about playing it on stage. Do you dream of playing on stage? And I will say, for me, I still have dreams of playing on stage. I don't daydream about it much. I daydream about playing in Stevie Wonder's band, you know, but not much. I've said before on this show, personally, the feeling that you get when you're in the audience and you really, really love the show and you feel like you're connected is almost exactly the feeling as when you're playing on stage and you're connected with the audience. So it really kind of teaches you that the whole thing is very, more you get out of your own way, the better you're going to do.
Definitely a reciprocal relationship.
But what about dreaming about being on stage and things
Well, I
like
mean,
that? Is
I
that
mean-
something that happens? Are you a big dreamer?
Yeah,
Literally?
But I mean, dreaming about being on stage, I remember when I was young and I just couldn't wait for the next gig, you know. And on my way to a gig, if it was, you know, like playing with country bands growing up or blues bands or stuff, I remember like if it was a long drive, I would be mentally playing the guitar in my head.
Yeah,
You know,
like working out stuff. I still
and
work
come
out
to find
stuff.
out, that's actually, I was reading a study about. They had taken a group of people and made them learn a piano lick, another group of people and made them just watch the people learning the piano lick, and another group of people that just, they showed them what it was and then they, you know, didn't do anything. And the people who just watched had the pretty much same brain, you know, because they had just and also they were supposed to mentally work it out.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's a form of dreaming about the instrument. Normally when I have dreams of being on stage, like physical dreams while I'm asleep,
It's a nightmare.
It's a damn, I mean, I can never ever
We
get
can
all
swear here,
my,
it's cable.
I can never get all my shit to the stage.
Yeah.
You know.
Is that right?
Ever. Like it's just I need this, it's still in the car.
That's
it's
so funny.
Like it's It's like when I used to play baseball and I would be trying to run. Like in my dreams of playing baseball, you just couldn't run, you know. And I'm sure probably like I'm having sleep paralysis in real life, you know.
Well, as soon as you make the transition and you start doing the front, because I have many people like Gabriel, who are great songwriters, great singers, but they've kind of gone into more of the I'm going to produce or I'm going to do whatever. As soon as you make that transition to front, all of a sudden your nightmares are like, I didn't count the merch, or I didn't put the right social media post up, and oh my gosh, no one's going to show up to the show because everybody else is counting on you. Everybody else, and all those insecurities come out that you didn't think you would have because you're like, oh, I've been a side guy, I know what it's like, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, it's me, and it's like, I've got to bear my own soul for this crap, not just make somebody else.
Well, and you know, I mean, and I know you know this as having been a side guy. You do take it on for the
Damn
artist
right.
too. You know, you're bummed when they don't have a good crowd.
You feel
and,
it.
You know, and you're nervous a little bit when they're nervous. You're comfortable when they're
Feel bad when they
comfortable.
clam. You guys know what a
bad
clam is?
when they clam.
Clam is like a bad note, like it's a clam.
Yeah.
In my case, they're planking clams. Because everybody has to put everything on my name. No, that's really interesting though about the dreaming and stuff and likening it to the sports and the nightmare. I can totally see that.
It just never works out. And there's the opening band is just about to finish and you still haven't worked it out. And, you know, so there you go.
Yeah, I like Larry King, who's another person. Larry, I hope it's starting. It seems like everybody was okay here and they weren't frozen. I hope you're still here for this question because I know you're a big supporter of the show. He says, who are some of your biggest influences and or high school activities? Okay, so that's kind of a double question. Let's go one at a time. Let's do some like quick influences. It's a broad question, so you don't have to go all over the place. But like, okay, so for producing, who's a producer you really love?
Well, I grew up, my first job was at the Pedernales studio, which is Willie's studio out in the hill country. And I started out as the kid that made coffee and went and got him Mexican food, and
Did you ever have to cut the tape?
Pretty soon I was running the patch bay, and pretty soon I was slicing
that's
the
a harder
tape.
job.
You know,
That's
and pretty
responsibility.
soon they would just leave me in charge.
Yeah.
You know, and have me do the comps, which back then was, you know, you had to do it directly to the 2-inch, and I remember the first comp I did. It was on a Willie Nelson and Olivia Newton-John record. It was like Olivia Newton-John's duet record, and all these like New York guys, Italian guys came in suits and
Put the money on the table.
and they were producing this thing, and the engineer and them all, they said, you know what? I want to let this kid do this. I think he's got a good ear.
Accent and everything.
Yeah.
Everything. You let him do the comp.
So I did, and I was, you know, and I just took to it. He's like, see, I knew this kid.
Nice.
You know? And,
now, for those of you out there who don't know, comp means like you're comping, which means you're taking different takes and you're putting things together in case like one take doesn't have everything. So you might take a vocal from this, you might take a guitar line from this and put the two things together. That's a comp. And that happens a lot when the take isn't perfect, because it's not perfect most of the time.
Well, and in working there, I saw producers come in that were I admired and were doing it great. And you could always tell, because just being on both sides of the glass, if the musicians were in the kitchen complaining about the producer, they were doing something wrong.
Yeah,
You
most
know?
likely.
Or if the
Themselves. Or the producer was doing something wrong, or the musicians?
you know, because no, the producer.
Yeah.
You know, because he wasn't. Yeah, or
He wasn't getting stuff out of them.
If you have the greatest guitar player, you know, Grissom would sit down, and before he's even
David
had
Grissom.
a chance to play one note, the producer's already telling him what to play. You know, and it's
Bad
like,
idea.
well, why don't you wait and see what
Yeah,
he's
see
gonna
what he
play?
does
and the
first.
good producers would. They'd hire a bunch of great musicians, and they would see what they came up with. Now, if they didn't like what they came up with, they'd make some adjustments. But you know,
Who was
a
a
lot of
good
times,
producer you worked with, though?
a lot of these French producers. There was one
Oh.
named Patrick Coutan who I always really admired, and he would always come here to do Dick Rivers records.
Mm-hmm.
And Dick Rivers was hugely famous in France. He's dead now, rest his soul. But Patrick, he would hire the greatest band. He'd get Grissom and Bruton and
Stephen Bruton.
Yeah, and he'd get Jim Keltner on drums, and just the dream band, and he would hire this guy Spencer Starnes to be the band leader, who's passed away now, but he was a great, kind of very put together, and I worked for a pretty long time as his assistant too, and which gave me a good, because he had his computer, he would print out all the charts, had a pencil sharpener. It was the exact opposite of like a lot of. He was like the organized nerd musician, and
as opposed to the come on in and play something that sounds like a waterfall.
Well, and everybody, and
that's the producer we don't want.
We would do just, and that was a great environment for me to get to learn. And then eventually, I would start. Then I started getting hired to play guitar or.
And playing on these same records.
It took years to kind of slowly work my way up through the ranks.
Well, so then what about guitar players? Like, was it, like you said, Knopfler was like an early influence?
Knopfler was an early influence. And
real melodic.
And I was always been so bad with names, but just, George Harrison was a big influence.
Yeah.
And just listening to Beatles and Hendrix and just all over the map. And I loved Spanish guitar music, like Tarrega and Segovia stuff. And so I've always been all over the map as far as influential-wise. I think in a lot of ways Willie was actually a pretty big influence on me because I spent so much time around him.
Of course. Yeah. Like, I think a lot of people underestimate, maybe not in Texas, but I remember, growing up in Ohio and Michigan and telling people, I love Willie Nelson's guitar playing. Yeah. And they just kind of thought of him as this guy with the ponytail who was a hippie who had the braids and he sang on the road again. And I was like, no.
And sure, maybe
no. The guitar.
Stylistically,
it's like Django.
A lot of people might think it's sloppy or whatever, but it's very effective. And
it's very vocal.
And very emotive, yeah.
To me, I was hearing an interview with him once and someone mentioned Django Reinhardt. And he said, I really take it as a big compliment when anybody mentions Django because he's such a big influence on my playing.
I remember getting on the bus one time and he had a couple of fingers taped up. I was like, why do you have your fingers taped up?
You wanted to try to play like Django.
He said, I'm trying to learn how to play like Django. Django had his
too.
Fingers burnt. Yeah.
In a fire.
And you wouldn't know it to listen to a Django Reinhardt record. But
yeah. Well, that's good advice for anybody, too, who says, my hands are too small, I have this, we have hundreds of examples of, Bonnie Raitt's got tiny hands and she can play the crap out of any guitar you hand her. It doesn't matter if it's a National or electric. And Django had busted fingers. Other people have leather. What is it? Jerry Garcia was missing a picking one, so he did banjo rolls like this. Yeah. For everybody who says, well, I can't do it because of this, and this, there's somebody who figured out how to do it.
And, I've seen now, of course, with the internet and everything, quadriplegics figuring out ways to do things.
So
come on.
That's exactly right.
We also have a lot of excuses to.
Well, okay, so what about going into songwriting, and that'll be the last, influences question, at least for now. But, I've noticed from co-writing with you myself that I hear a lot of influences. We don't just sit down and go, all right, these are all going to be kind of in one particular vein. They come from a lot of places. But who are songwriting influences?
Well, a lot like with the guitar thing, I didn't even touch on all the people in Austin that were huge influences with me because I got to watch their process in the studio, just like this. Just from, the tape's rolling, and people like Bruton would always play the coolest thing that you never heard because you never heard that record.
Yeah.
And Grissom was really great at that too. And he wasn't playing like David Grissom. Mm-hmm. He was playing like what that song needed. And Mitch Watkins was another one.
For sure.
And there was guys like that who were the on-call session dudes in town at that point. The same with songwriting. I was lucky enough that my mom had the publishing deal at Alma Irving, so I got to be around all these people like Gary Nicholson and Beth Chapman and blah, 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 et cetera, and just, I always admired just how they could put words together like that. And
they are fast,
And and not get bogged down in any weird bullshit about it, and
Yeah.
or if somebody would go, hey, how about this? They go, oh, in this song? Then they go, okay. Then they just
You
go
just
on
go
a
on to the
completely
next
another,
thing.
and
That's
not get
definitely-
hung up fighting over one line or
It's
whatever.
good not to be
Yeah.
precious
Just
when
let it
you're
go.
when
Yeah.
you're songwriting, because you're not going to get much done if somebody says, "Hey, I don't like that," then you just go, "All right,
Okay, well, let's do
I'll
something
put that
else.
in some.
We're
I'll put
just
it in one
making
of my
stuff
other
up
songs."
anyway, aren't we all?
Yeah.
In any job
Oh,
we're in.
Randy, my buddy Randy Dees, who we'll see Friday at the Dripping Springs House concert. We will. He says lots of name drops. It's great. Look, it's not really name dropping. It's just who he worked with. It's like my old buddy Michael.
I hadn't even got started on the name dropping.
Yeah, right. We could start down that road. But it's true that the people you work with become big influences as well. Like before I moved to Texas, I had influences like Willis Allen Ramsey and Ray Wiley, and then I got here and I worked with them. But I didn't know who Eliza Gilkison was, and she's been a huge influence on my writing. Mm-hmm. Huge, especially in the fact that she can write a song that's, got some sort of political idea, but still great musically and really super, super interesting musically. And I know you spent a lot of time through your mom, who's Gabriel Rhodes, and through being around Joe Gracie, just being around so many types of musicians. Was it like a Will Sexton? Was it a Bill Carter? Or?
Well, I mean, that was way later on, and those were friendships I cultivated outside of the
industry, so to speak.
Outside of my mom's. I mean, mostly when we were starting out with my mom and Gracie, we were playing country swing music, which is where I got a pretty great education in that, because she had She had Jimmy Day on steel, and
can't get any better than
cool,
that period.
Old, Johnny Gimbel was the fiddle player, so I got to just stand in the back and play TikTok and watch these great musicians.
I wouldn't want to
work,
do anything else,
and and then of course my mom wanted to go farther than just be a Western swing playing covers. We'd be playing a dance, and she'd do one of her songs, and there goes the dance floor,
Oh,
No,
man.
So she was like, okay. So she reinvented herself as something else, but I can't remember what the question was.
Well, mostly it was
anymore.
about songwriting influences that were in your circle, as opposed to people who were big
Well, and
names.
Joe Ely was a huge influence
right?
on me. I mean, especially at an impressionable age as I was. We'd go to parties at Joe's house, and he was cool.
Joe has the best parties, because they're not.
He would be running the pool table. You'd get one shot, and if you didn't make it, Joe Ely was gonna clean the table after that.
That's not gonna happen. Yeah.
And
Joe's won cars shooting pool.
yeah,
That's how he won the Cadillac from Stubbs.
yeah.
And so I don't.
But
shoot
guys
pool
like
with him.
Will, I've always admired their writing. I don't know how much of an influence he would be. And I'm always at awe of Bill Carter, who I still play with now.
But the songwriting has always been so at this high level.
And just
Doesn't have a lot of
how did he
throwaways.
come up with that, And Billy Joe Shaver, working with him and really getting to dive into his material. Like, there's something to be said for having an 8th grade education, because he did not mince words,
And a good Christian
there was never got too flowery.
Yeah,
he
he
was
just said what he
directly
needed.
to the point.
Yeah, that's a very good
not
thing
a whole
to
lot of fluff.
Talk about with songwriting as well.
Yeah.
It can work. Not that if you want to write Masters of War, you go ahead and do it. But as well, succinct is sometimes a really good thing. The other half of Larry's question that I always like is he tends to ask what was going on with you in high school. You said you were baseball a little bit.
Well, no.
Was that before?
In high school,
what kind of activities? Larry always wants to know about
I played
activities in high
baseball
school.
pretty much second base or shortstop my whole childhood until high school. And then it was.
Then you picked up a guitar.
I picked up the guitar.
Same with me,
maybe.
No more sports. I'm not gonna run a mile in cleats when I've got a guitar.
Other recreational things that I probably shouldn't have been doing, and and girls and playing the guitar. I mean, I would hole up in my room and play the guitar forever.
Yeah, I would forget
Till my
to
dad
eat,
would
which
tell me
doesn't
to
happen
shut
anymore.
up.
Yeah, my mom would bang on the door and say, "It sounds like someone's dying in there." And she'd say, "I know you know how to play something pretty."
Yeah.
You know, but that's what happens. All right, well, so that's a good thought as far as the high school activities. For
And
the
I
standard
wrestled
question.
too.
Is that right?
115. I weighed 135, so I would lose weight to get down to 115.
Did you ever do
Because I would
the,
get thumped at 135.
Did you ever do the thing where they would say, take a glass of water at dinner and drink it with a spoon and just go like this, and when then when it's done, then have your meal? Because you'd just be way, way,
No,
way. Or
illegally.
we'd run in sweats.
This was in Oklahoma, and they would do things a little different there.
Pretty awful.
Well, they would it was against the law to do, but they would do it anyway. They would put you in a trash bag.
Yep.
And then put like
We did this too.
three things of,
Yep.
of gym clothes and make you jump rope in front of the heater. And I'd lose about 10 pounds of practice. And then you just eat tuna with no mayonnaise.
Oh, it's awful what they did to us.
And then, of course, right after weigh-in and being in Oklahoma, they'd take you to the Brandon Iron restaurant where you'd just gorge yourself and feel horrible.
But then you'd put it back on, and then you'd have a little bit of weight.
No,
for
you
the-
wouldn't feel horrible about yourself. You'd feel horrible physically
Physically.
because after not eating for a week and you eat at an all-you-can-eat buffet.
You know, the joy of high school and
Yeah.
sports and everything, right? We have a couple questions from our good friend from KPFT, Susan Darrow.
I
I
love
really
Susan.
like both of those questions. And one of them is, what are the pros and cons of being in a family band?
You know, it's funny. My mom used to always say that on stage, and she would say as a joke, "Imagine being in your mother's band." You know,
Like how difficult that would be.
yeah,
was her
well,
point?
and of course, yeah. But I think a lot of people's moms weren't quite. I mean, when we're
mom's
at
pretty
home,
hip.
when we're at home, she could be my mother, and you know, meddle with the children and all the things that moms do. But when we're on the road, she just turns into an old road dog that tells dirty jokes, and you know.
Well, I mean, I think
Yeah.
being a woman on the road,
Yeah.
anytime. I mean, maybe now it's finally starting to get a little easier, but you would have to kind of
Well, when
to
we-
survive.
Particularly,
You know.
we would travel through Europe, and they were great to. Gracie always would research what the coolest restaurant in France to go to was, and you
That sounds
and-
awful.
And so it was a lot of fun, and I really actually miss it a lot. You know.
You have mentioned before, though, that once you get out on the road, your mom kind of stops treating you like son and starts treating you like
it's a
he's in the
professional working relationship.
band. Not everybody can do that, but I think that it's wise, obviously, to keep it from becoming
and
something.
it's also nice
that's,
because I take care of her, you know, like probably, and I try to do it with anybody I
you
work
do it.
with.
That's part of a sideman's gig.
You know,
Side
I
person.
notice if her tuner's still on, and I'll just discreetly step on it before she starts strumming, and I
tuner
would do
will
that with
mute.
anybody,
Yeah.
you know, or like capo's on the wrong fret.
Yeah.
But no, it's great being in a family band, and you know, also looking back, I probably didn't appreciate it as much, especially now that Gracie's gone. All that time I got to spend with them that I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been probably like most, you know, because now, I mean, I try to go see my mom occasionally. She still lives in town, but it's not as often as I should. And, you know, and I definitely spend all holidays together.
Yeah.
But that doesn't equal all those months
Oh,
and
yeah, on
months
the road.
and years
Training,
that we spend
you
on
know.
the road. And you know how it is when you're traveling for a couple of weeks. You'll get punch drunk.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and just you have all these jokes, and you eventually reach this point where you're just deliriously laughing at all this, you know.
And that's part of the beauty of it.
It's the beauty of it.
The glamour is lost pretty quickly, as my wife found out very fast. But the you know, when you pull the curtain back, but the good is really good. You know, nobody's thinking about having to get truck stop food at 2 a.m. when you didn't have a chance to eat before the gig and all this kind of stuff. Nobody's thinking about that part, but the good and the camaraderie and being on the road with people that you love is kind of priceless, and I don't take
Well,
that
and
for
also
granted.
one last footnote
Please.
to that is I've traveled with a lot of bands that weren't my family, and I could say that the per diem was a lot better.
in my family. Per diem is your well.
Yeah,
most
that's-
people probably
That's
know.
it's
what
how
per
much
diem
money
is.
you get per day to spend on food or
and
whatever.
life.
You know, yeah. She'd always, every time we're in London, she buys me Doc Martens. Every time we're there, so it's good.
It's good, man.
Per diem's good.
Yeah, I can't say anybody ever did that for me on the road.
Yeah.
Nobody ever bought me Doc Martens in London.
Oh. I
They'd give me
traveled a lot
shawarma.
with this
I'd get
guy.
shawarma in London or
This
something.
guy Calvin Russell, who's passed away now too, and we would travel a lot. Mostly through France was his big territory, but he would almost like a family. He would carry my weed across the borders for me,
So you didn't have to worry about it?
so I didn't have to worry about it. That was one of the perks
Oh, boy.
of traveling with Calvin.
You know, it's funny. But way back when I used to do such things, I wouldn't travel because I was just the kind of guy that you could just read it on my face. I'm a heart on my sleeve kind of
Oh,
person.
me too. My eyes get this
I mean,
big.
I
and
would be terrified
I
of
would.
ever
I would
doing
make a
anything
horrible
like that.
drug smuggler.
Yeah, I'm glad
I
I
would
never
faint
tried.
at the border.
Glad
Yeah.
I never tried. Yeah, that would have been the end of my music career for sure. Okay, so we're already about halfway through. That's how fast these things goes. For those of you who are just joining us, this is 20 Question Tuesdays. We're on Austin Music TV. We're on Austin City Jams. Thanks for everybody who put a little something in the jar. I always make sure that my guests gets a little extra something for their time, maybe a takeout meal or a tank of gas or whatever. So we appreciate the tips. And I really, really love doing that. Keep the questions coming in. But the next question I'm going to ask...
Oh, and since I am traveling with you, in no way did I mean you needed to buy me any shoes.
Oh,
or
no.
anything. Yeah,
No.
I just want you to know that.
because I wouldn't know where to get them. But I can show you where to buy the right Adidas. If you're an Adidas guy, I can probably help out with that.
I am an Adidas guy.
Yeah, me too. I got a new pair of Stan Smiths just for this tour.
Man, I talk about high school. That was the shoe.
I never stopped
Me
wearing
either.
Adidas.
No, I still wear Doc Martens and,
Yeah, they go in and out of
Converse
style.
and Adidas.
And we're still
We
stuck
keep
with
being
it.
in vogue every 10 years.
Every 10 years it comes back and they're like, oh, he looks cool again. Oh, man. Well, that was our other discussion on the way here about aging gracefully and being comfortable with it and in your own shoes. Okay, so anyway, next question, also from Susan, but great question. Now, this is always tough. When someone says, who was your favorite artist or artists you've produced, it's funny, the only person who ever was like, didn't want to like...
Why you, Jeff Plankenhorn?
Right, yeah, right, exactly. No, you don't have to worry about
I
that
know
with
where you're
me.
headed with that, yeah.
Well, because people are like, wow, there's so many, and I really love everybody, and da-da-da-da. When Lloyd Maines was on, he goes, I said, who's your favorite people to play with? And he goes, oh, that's easy, my children, my grandchildren. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I get that, and it seemed like a really, really honest answer, and he didn't have to, tiptoe around eggshells and stuff like that. But if there's a few standouts of like great moments that you felt either that the artist was great or that what you came up with was just like, wow, that was stellar. That maybe
not to keep-
known or unknown.
Even though she is my mother, I've produced probably about 6 records on her. And
Kimmy Rhodes, that is.
And it's always a great time, and you start to draw a blank on her,
no, but that's
hundreds of people that you've produced.
cool that your mom is
because
one.
she's hip,
Oh, I know.
and she always too. I think she has this undying trust in me,
as a side person and as a producer.
And also, she had me build a studio in her backyard when I was like 18.
Well, let's talk about that studio, because when we go out there, and that is a place that you often produced before you built your studio in your home that you have now. What's it called out there?
Sunbird Studio.
Sunbird
yeah.
Studios. People picture a studio and they think control booth. They think very sort of industrial looking dividers. They think of what they see in the movies. This is sort of
It's like going to a Swiss chalet.
Yeah,
or something.
it's a lot more like that, and your dividers are kind of like more like drapery than they are like. And did that kind of change the way that you would do stuff? Like maybe more stuff was in the room at the same time, and
Well,
less stuff
I mean,
had to be
yeah.
because of function.
You know,
With that
also,
studio?
well, you'd be surprised at the separation we are getting now out there. But you know, I've done records out there where we didn't put any dividers.
And so you played live.
And just like we put in a studio up at Willie's Western Town and did Ray Price's record up there, and we all just sat in a circle
Yeah.
for a couple days and just played, you know.
Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
like that if you've done pre-production or if your musicians
Well,
are kind of
and
outstanding.
I've done so many different styles of one where you start with the kick drum and work your way up. I always love it. The more musicians you can get
on the take.
the more kinetic energy there is, and the more it's you can't even describe it what it does, but it's just everyone is locked together in a way they will never be if they're not playing together. You know, and then of course overdubs. I'm a huge fan.
Sure.
But I'm also
Fix it
the
if
older
you
I
need
get,
to.
the less things I want to hear on a record. And it's a lesson that we all keep learning over and over and over again. Less is more.
Yeah. Well, and don't you
And-
also feel like there's a balance, because we can go down the route, and of course there's a balance, like there is with anything. You can go down the rabbit hole of I'm going to listen to 15 takes of this 3-second guitar solo and figure out which one's amazing,
Or
and then
that one's amazing.
Or
let's go.
let's
with
go.
It. Yeah.
You know, like how much better is it going to be after 80 times of singing the same vocal?
Not
It's
much
not
is
gonna
the
be
answer
that
to
much
that.
better.
Yeah,
It's
it's usually
not.
double back to that first one and check it out.
You're like, wait a
Oh,
second,
wait
that
a
was
minute.
really pretty
I was
good.
actually singing then.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, one of my best experiences ever was I was lucky enough to be in the studio when they recorded Man of Constant Sorrow. And so I watched the Soggy Bottom Boys. My buddy had called
What a
me.
track,
It was
too.
insane.
Yeah.
And the reason that I'm mentioning it is because, you know, my buddy called me and he's like, hey, I'm playing guitar on this thing. He was playing backup guitar. And he said, they're singing Stanley Brothers tunes. Get down here. And so I went to the Tower Records, and I grabbed a record, and I was listening in headphones, totally dangerous, while I was driving, writing down the words to Man of Constant Sorrow. Get to the studio. I see Dan Tominski. He's practicing. I was like, nah, I'm done. There's no way they're going to ask me. And but then they said, oh, you just hang out. And I sat in the booth and I watched. What's like what you said was this. In the Sound Emporium in Nashville, they were in a line. They weren't even in a circle. They were in a line. So we're in the booth, and it was just like, I'll never forget it, you know? It was like Jerry Douglas, Ron Block on banjo, Barry Bales on bass, Mike Compton on mandolin, Dan Tominski and Pat Enright singing in the middle, and my buddy Chris Sharp on guitar, and Stuart Duncan on fiddle. Insane band. So no rehearsal, they all know the song already. Hits the light, they all play. They get done, it goes down, boom. Nobody discussed who's gonna take a solo where, who's gonna start. It was there the whole time.
Yeah.
They nailed it, and they got done, and Jerry Douglas said, well, that was fucking in tune. Excuse
I
us,
love that
we're on
guy.
cable, it's okay.
Well, they have that great band with my friend Sean Camp.
Yep.
And Jerry Douglas, and it's basically that same thing.
Kind
the
of thing.
Earls of Leicester or
Leicester,
something.
yeah, Leicester.
And they're wonderful. And it's all it's that tradition. I seriously doubt how much of that is worked out ahead of time.
It's
I think
pretty-
it's just a tradition. you
Like
know?
other traditions,
Yeah.
it's very oral, and
And a
there's-
wink and a nod that you probably don't even catch, you know.
It's almost choreography too, because being able to swoop in. I remember playing dobro in that kind of one mic band, and how Uncle Josh was kind of short, so he would stand on his tiptoes and kind of
Yeah,
pull his dobro up
right.
like this to get the cone of the dobro in the mic.
Right, and knowing how far to stand back with your banjo because
Exactly,
it's going to be real loud.
loud.
Yeah, sure.
And so banjo's over here, the guitar player's got to go doodle-doo, and then step back.
I've had a lot of musical experiences. That is not one of
Oh
them.
man,
Yeah.
it's a trip, and it teaches you a lot about singing because you have to blend on one mic,
Yeah.
and you have to pull back your voice and stand in certain places. It's pretty brilliant.
Brilliant.
Oh, this is great. We've got Adrian over there in Austin, ATX Quintero, who did that awesome Back to Texas poster for me, as well as so much of the artwork for the albums and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I
Thanks,
love
brother.
those, yeah.
And then my buddy Gibby Nick there is on Vancouver Island. He's a great songwriter. I was just having a discussion, man. Got to get more of your originals out there, my friend. We got to get people hearing your originals. All sorts of great people hanging out right now. All right, let's see what we're doing on questions. Keep going here. All right.
This is fun. Thanks for having me.
I always love being had.
Oh, you've been had, all right. Well, I was thinking, it's like you said, you did Jamie Harris, Ray Wiley,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
did the Postman.
I mean, right?
Who
else?
So, so now you finally got all the way down to
No, it's not that. It's like I've done over a year. And the only time I've taken off was when I can't be in town or I'm traveling. And on both of the Tuesdays this month, I'm traveling to and from Texas, so I'm just doing a rerun and streaming it in from this super cool app thing.
Been
whatever
doing it a
is.
while. You're already in reruns. It's
I mean,
good.
I'm kind of already there. It's a
But
beautiful thing.
I think somebody like Lloyd or something like that bears repeating.
It's true, and also somebody like you, somebody like Lloyd, somebody like Bob Livingston. It's really tough to get to everything in 1 hour.
Right.
But an hour feels great. You know what I mean? I don't want to drag on.
I
like
wouldn't want to
people that-
listen to me talk for longer than an
Yeah,
hour.
me neither, right? Come on. Okay, so if you're just joining us, and I see a few people have, thanks for sharing the post. We're at McGonagall's Mucky Duck, and we're going to be playing here this evening, and you'll be able to live stream it as well. I believe you'll be able to get it from my page, but I know 100% that it will be on McGonagall's Mucky Duck. And let me make sure that I get the right...
And then there's some kind of thing here, is charity or something.
Oh, yeah. There's a portion that goes to helping. Feed the front line. Yeah, so a portion of it goes to Feed the Front Line, which is just exactly what you think it is and as cool as you think it is. And we'll talk more about that tonight as well. So, what projects are we working on right now? Now, I know you've done a little bit with my friend Chris Robeson.
He's
We
an
gotta kick
ongoing.
him. We gotta kick him in the butt
and
because
get
his
him to-
music sounds great and he doesn't want to put it out
Great,
yet.
But he will. And I just made some artwork for him.
Well, that's a good
and I
start.
said, look, I'm not going to charge you for doing this.
Yeah.
Unless you don't put it out in 2 weeks. And then you're going to get an invoice.
So
my
you really
friend.
want him to just put it out? Now, I mean,
Yeah.
it's one thing if you want to put something out because you need to and you've started gigging.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're putting out a record and you really want it to like chart and all that stuff, you
No,
need a
he
year.
does. Yeah, he
He wants
doesn't-
to get going.
No, he doesn't. I mean, that was just a joke. I mean, I want him to just have some sort of motivation underneath it.
Get it on streaming services and everything else.
And there's just been a lot going on, and especially with the pandemic, so much of my life has taken place over Zoom or via email. But in a lot of ways, I was already used to that from making these like compilation records where maybe you have Garth Hudson playing piano and you're having to deal with him, and then there's other people in England or Ireland or, so I was pretty used to working over the internet.
Remote recording is something that a lot of people don't know that we do, but and you have a you have a really really great website, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. A lot of people don't know.
GabeRhodes.com, pretty easy.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, remote recording is great. People will call me and say, hey, I really need a dobro part. Let me see if that looks right. I did it, right? That's it. Yep, that's it right there. So,
When I actually, with the songwriting,
I
I
was so good
almost
for this.
prefer it.
I've had the same
honestly,
experience.
Tell
Tell me why.
Because, well, for one, I'm in the comfort of my own home. You don't feel stressed about, like, oh, we got to finish this right. You've made the trip over to my house now. Here, let's sit down.
We got to write a song.
'Cause you can
We gotta
always,
write.
you'll get something going and you'll say, hey, why don't we take about 15, 20 minutes, get a cup of coffee. I'll go out, water the plants. All of a sudden, ideas start pouring back into my head, and then we get back on. And
I think it's exactly right. The comfort zone thing is huge for me.
yeah. Well, and
with Zoom writing.
I just did for the second year in a row, the Chris Difford songwriting retreat. Normally it takes place at this beautiful castle in Glastonbury. Unfortunately, that's one of the things that the
Pandemic took from us.
has stolen from me, but it was still an honor and a pleasure to do it online. And the other, and every morning he pairs you with who you're going to write with. And Chris Difford, if you don't know, is the guy from the band Squeeze.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so the other day I was writing with a song with someone in England and someone in LA.
I love it.
And me in
Totally,
Austin,
yeah.
and it was, and we wrote a song that would have never been written,
Because you never would have all been in the same place. You never would have, and even if you were, to be able to coordinate your schedules so that all three of you would get together is a tough thing. Because we
and
hustle.
especially with the time, since we were a part of his thing, we're all locked into this time frame, and it was, for me, it was kind of early to want to start writing, but in England it was really late, and of course in LA it was even way earlier,
Right. And other people do that too. Some of us are night owls, and they get to write with those of us who are early to rise people who skipped that part of the dark side of their life. Yeah.
And for a lot of it, like for about the first 4 months, it was just keeping me sane to get on. I'd get on
it was
with
connection.
with Sean Camp, and we'd write a song, if it was a good song, or we'd just start goofing off and write a silly song. We were keeping each other company.
Yeah, I heard some of those. You sent me a couple,
Yeah.
good and silly,
Yeah.
during that time. Both of us did some remote recording and some songwriting via Zoom beforehand because, another name drop, sorry guys, I was writing with David Grissom, and we couldn't be in the same place, but we wanted to finish something, and so we got on, I don't know, it was a Skype back then or something like that, and what he did that I just thought was brilliant was he would open a Google Doc, and on that Google Doc, we would both be writing in real time because we'd both be signed into it. So what would happen is he'd be playing guitar, which I don't want to mess with. If he's playing guitar and he's like vibing on something, I know he's going to come up with something cool. So he'd just like say something out loud and I'd write it down. As opposed to he's sitting there and he's saying something and he thinks about it and then he decides which things he wants to write down.
Sure, yeah.
And instead, like, I become the scribe. And then I'd start playing and I'd say something and he'd write it down. And I've found that has really translated into the Zoom writing as well, and where one person's playing and one person's writing.
One person has to be the stenographer at all times.
Always. I can't remember who told me the joke that's true about when Tom Waits wrote with Keith Richards. And they sit down to write a song together, and Tom Waits says, all of a sudden, Keith goes, "Scribe, scribe." And then Tom looks around and he goes, and then all of a sudden I realized, I'm the scribe.
That's awesome.
I agree. But yeah, and then you and I, to lead into the next question that's here, you and I, when we were working on the song Bird Out on Ninth, for my Covered Uncovered, self-promotion, when we were working on that, we were really close. You had already come up with just like a chorus that said everything that I wanted to say that I was having trouble with, which was that Southern Flying Away kind of thing. And I had given you chords for it, but I hadn't had anything like that. And we were looking for some more stuff, and I said, we should call somebody else for a third on this. Would you mind? And you said, yeah. And I was like, what about Michael Fracasso? I've always wanted to work with him.
And Michael's great.
So Michael came over to your place, and I was at a Motel 6 in Denver when we finished that song.
That's the beauty of it,
Yeah. And probably wouldn't have happened otherwise.
And of course, I harp on Chris for not putting his stuff out. Michael Fracasso and I have been writing a Nat King Cole style record.
I've heard some of that too.
For about 4 years now.
And why is it not out?
Because we are.
Because it's continuing.
We're
Oh, the mic is picking up your hand banging on the table. Well, that's the joy of this not being really truly professional. Because I'm not.
But duly noted.
But we'll do better for the last 10 minutes. Thank you, Mark. So another question. So Susan, well done. Not on the hands. It's good. It's good. My wife is always like, not in your hand.
Oh, God. I was
She's
never a germaphobe. In fact, I grew up on a farm swimming in the cow trough,
There was a lot of
which is
germs.
probably why I'm like hardly ever get sick.
It's because your immune system
Yeah,
is
but
just...
I have washed my hands. I've washed them 10 times since I've been in here.
Well, I will say this too, that the duck, as far as seating and as far as everything, they're really doing their best to keep it as safe as possible. And we appreciate that because
Staff and masks.
Yep, everybody's
People
doing what they need to
pretty far
do.
apart. Yeah.
Socially distant. We're doing the best we can for being inside and to make sure that a gig still happens tonight at 7 p.m. Once again, real quick, I'm going to say some thanks before we go off because I always forget to do it before we go off the television station. Thanks to AustinCityJams.com. Thanks to Austin Music TV and Sheila Steele. Thanks, of course, to Gabe Rhodes, who you can find out about. Usually it's under me, but you just go like this. Just point.
Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, there you go. It's right
Right.
there. That's how you find him, and that's how you
It's like
find
Colbert.
out. It's exactly like the Colbert.
No, your production values are pretty impressive, I gotta say. Yeah.
Is that sarcasm?
No,
I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, you got little lower thirds, upper fourths.
this
I
one's
don't know
kinda-
what you call them.
Kind of looks like a hat for me right now.
Yeah, there you
Make it a
go.
hat.
Perfect.
We'll be performing tonight at McGonagall's Mucky Duck, and we've got lots of other shows that you can find out, believe it or not, at plank.Wednesday, Thursday, Friday /shows.
Which, like, I gotta say, I'm looking forward to playing with you tonight. The other day we sat down to do KPFT, and it was the first time we had played with each other in
Year and a half.
year and a half, and we started playing. It was just like,
I know, I did the
this
same
feels
thing.
really
bro.
good
Yeah, I
to
was
play
like,
with my old friend again. Jesus.
I still know how to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
this.
And in a way, it was like it would. That time hadn't even passed.
No,
you know,
no. So I'm sure tonight will be more of the same. I felt the same. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, the plank.WTF is not a joke, but thanks for putting that in there, Mark. What was I going to say? Oh, and thanks, everybody. I always forget, but we do appreciate the tips. I split the tips with my guests just to make sure that they can get, usually it's so they can get a meal for them and their loved one, or so they can get some gas to get down the road, and, you know, it's just a nice thing. It's a nice perk of the show.
Doc Martin money.
Yes, Doc Martin money, exactly. I've been asked by Susan Darrow to tell about my new EP. It's called Covered Uncovered Volume 2. It features The Resentments. It features songs and performances with Gabriel Rhodes. It has a Beatles cover, if you can believe that, and a song by Joe Ely, and it's Volume 2 of the Covered Uncovered series. And you can all find that at anything. Plank.herenow.com is just basically anything digital. Bandcamp, Spotify, Deezer, whatever the heck that is. It's on all of them.
Now, is there one place? Because you've shown about 20 emails so far. Is there one consolidated
hub for
place
my
that
stuff?
has all this?
Yeah, everything's on my website.
That's your website.
But
okay, and that's just plank.com or something.
yeah, but then you go there and it sends you to all these other
Okay,
things because
good.
that's the way it is.
You know,
Do you
just
have any idea how
for
many
the layman
things-
like me who could never remember anything. you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It's crazy how many things they're like. Somebody will say, "Are you on SoundCloud?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm on SoundCloud." And somebody else will be like, "Well, I like this. Oh, I like
There's
going
a lot
here.
of
Well, I'll just get it
platforms.
from YouTube." So it's like, okay, when I set up the plank.herenow.com, it's like a
I'll just watch
YouTube,
it free on
a
YouTube.
Facebook. Well, I mean, it's like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple Music.
See, that's
It's
one great thing about
ridiculous.
just being an album producer.
You don't have to deal with that crap.
And I tell people all the time, because that's their first question about, well, it's not their first question, about just about when the record's almost done. They're like, so how can I, like, what can I do? I was like, look,
Everything.
I build
Do
them.
everything.
I build them, I don't fly them, buddy. You know?
That's exactly right. That's exactly
You're on
right.
your own there.
Susan also asked when. Well, Susan's got a bunch of questions, but
Susan's
bless you for
full
them.
of questions.
Let's see. We have time for them, so that's no problem. Where can I get a copy? Here, I'll even put this one on. Watch this. You can actually show it. Susan Darrow. And there's a little picture of you, Susan, right there.
Oh, gosh.
Where can I get Gabe's new song with Johnny Gowdy?
Boy, that's a good
Johnny Gowdy's having his 10th anniversary of his podcast.
Johnny and
today.
Johnny's released
10 years.
3 singles so far, 2 of which I wrote and recorded with him. One other, I don't know, I can't vouch for it. But we also have a 4th one that if I would just mix it, then it would be, he wants to put it out soon. But I guess Johnny has I know that you could probably, How Did I Get Here?
Yeah, his
.com
podcast.
or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, you might be able to
he's
get
got
it there.
this wonderful podcast. I'm sure you could find it there.
Okay.
I know it's on Spotify and
What's
Apple
the name of
Music,
it?
I think. The last song we released, which was a cool song, it's called All New Flavor.
Okay, so you know what I can do is
Yeah.
for all the people who are watching
Johnny
online,
Gowdy, All New Flavor. Go check it out.
I can
It's
put
cool.
that in the comments, and it will at least be searchable for all these
Yeah.
folks.
But like I said, I don't fly them, so I would know.
Well, no, but I mean, it's usually
But
enough.
it's a cool
these
song.
days.
You type in a few things, you'll find it.
Yeah,
And it's worth it because it's neat.
yeah.
I don't know if you've heard it.
I have.
Okay.
Yes. Neat is not a word I would have used.
See, for me, neat's a cool
Neat's
word.
cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a world of amazing things, and it's amazing.
I stick away from amazing. Amazing to me,
Mm-hmm.
I quote Butch Hancock. We have definitely different words. Okay, Butch Hancock once he said your taco is not amazing.
No, it's not.
He said a supernova is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you're right.
Supernova is amazing. Your
Okay,
taco's
be
not amazing.
impeccable
And he's
with your
right.
words. You're right.
You know.
One that's funny because a lot of times I'll say to Jeff, "Oh no, it's gonna be fine." And he's like, "I don't like fine."
I don't want fine.
Yeah, fine
not in
is
music.
not good
Not
enough.
in music.
Yeah.
I never want fine. If I'm in the studio and somebody goes, "It's fine," I'm like, "We got to do it again.
We got to do it again.
We got to do it again." I'm not putting anything on my record that's fine.
I've learned not
I've
to say fine
done
when I
that.
have him in the studio.
Yeah, and it's true. I'm hard that way. Okay, so we're down to about the last minute, but we'll stay on if there's any more. So as we're going off the cable channel, we'll stay online just to finish this up. And with the last question, I always like to ask every guest I have my question, my only Jeff Plankenhorn question, which is, what is your guilty pleasure music? What is the music that you listen to that people wouldn't expect, or it doesn't have to really be guilty, it just kind of has to be a little left field.
Like most recently?
Anything. Like, what is
like
your
the
like,
other day? Of course, I've got a 13-year-old daughter, so
So
she's
you're into
constantly
Lord.
bebopping and boppa. When she has pretty good taste in
or
music.
Eilish?
I'll tell you who's pretty impressive is the freaking Bruno Mars.
Oh yeah, always.
You know?
Yeah, him and the stuff he's done with Anderson .Paak is incredible.
It's fucking. Sorry.
That's okay. We're on cable.
Yelling, but it's still in a restaurant.
Yeah, I guess it's still in a restaurant,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's really good.
It's really good. So, and sometimes I like to just listen to that music she's listening to just to not be an old dinosaur,
I know, man.
rotting in my folk,
Well, there's another balance for us too, right? Like, we want to get inspired by new music, but there's a reason that I don't listen to every single word of every Billie Eilish album. I'm not a 13-year-old girl.
Well, yeah, there's that. And also,
know?
too, I'll think, oh, wow, the production's really great on that. But it's not going to be a record like Sgt. Pepper's that lasts, that spans. It's not like
And what do
the
we know?
Beatles that would cross the Iron Curtain and make people risk their freedom to
Yeah.
go listen to it, So
I wonder what that is.
But it's well done.
I'd be curious to say
It's good,
what
as
it
you
is
might
for
say.
our time. Yeah, it's really
It's
well
fine.
done. It's really well done. Adrian, right? Dua Lipa. Yeah, man, really, really good. I also really like Yola. Really like. So feel free. I love it when people put stuff like that in the comments. And we're off in 4, 3, 2, 1. Buy on TV. Buy on TV. And we'll go ahead and say right now that we are off on television. We will say thanks very much. Everybody, now that we're off, I can do call to action, which I didn't even tell you we couldn't do while we were online, but you didn't anyway. Well, it's where you say, go here to look at this, or go here to check this out. But I want everybody to go to GabeRhodes.com, find out about the stuff he's doing. If you need to have something recorded or you're interested, you never know. He may have time. He may be able to do it
also,
remotely.
the remote thing has been going really well right now because,
For obvious
Yeah,
reasons.
for obvious reasons.
Yep. Well, now it's time for us to go get some lunch. And Gabriel, this has been awesome.
Oh,
Thank
man,
you, bro.
It's a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to playing tonight.
Can't wait to play tonight. Please tune in to McGonagall's Mucky Duck. What is it? Theduck.org, or I don't know what it is, but it's, what is it? McGonagals.com. And you know what? I'm going to put that in here too, in the chat. McGonagals.
And it's right behind us if you need to know how to spell it.
.com. Yeah, as I do that. And, oh, I almost spelled out dot. Would that make me seem...
www.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Danielle, for being here to help out too with posting the tip stuff and all the other information. Everybody have a wonderful time being good to each other and staying safe. Okay. All right, Mark. I hope to see you online. And everybody, we got great cameras and great sound for tonight. Gabriel Rhodes, everybody. Woo!
See you. Thank you.